Hi, and welcome to this new episode of the series on how to build a decentralized to-do list on Ethereum. The end goal of this series is to be able to have a Dapp that will basically look like this. So you will be able to create tasks with some content and an author, and you'll be able to visualize the list of tasks, and you'll also be able to toggle the done status. The front end is a web page, and the back end is an Ethereum smart contract written with Solidity and the Truffle framework. In this specific video, we're going to refactor our code using Webpack, Babel, and truffle-solidity-loader. It's great to have modern JavaScript features in your Dapp, but when you mix the complexity of ES6 plus the complexity of Dapp, it can make things a little bit difficult, and especially when it comes to combining different versions. So I've done the work for you. So if you follow this video until the end, you can just take the combination of packages that work together and you can use it to build your own dApps. So let's start by setting up the project. So as usual, you just need to copy paste the folder of the last episode, which is step 5, in order to get started. If you don't already have git clone the repo of Eat the Blocks, you can do it now. And once it's done, so you just need to step in special episode 1 folder, and then you need to copy the content of the step 5 folder and copy it into step 6. So now we're going to install Webpack, Babel, and truffle-solidity-loader. So this will be installed as dev npm package, and we will use this command. So for this, actually to have the command, I'm going to check out the post for this tutorial on the Eat the Blocks website, and I'm just going to copy paste. So here, install the required dev npm package. Let me copy paste all of this. And I go back to my terminal. I go into the step 6 folder, and I paste what I've just copied. It's going to install everything. Okay, everything has been installed. So now we need to move on to configure Babel by creating a Babel RC file. So let's do this. And inside this Babel RC file, we're going to use this config. Then we're going to configure Webpack by creating another file called webpack.config.js. So and inside we're going to copy paste this. It basically tells Webpack to take our index.js file as an input. Then it's going to use Babel to transform all the ES6 syntax to ES5 so all the browsers can understand it. And then it's going to save the output file into apps/this/bundle.js. So now we need to update the script tag that loads our JavaScript code in our HTML file. So let's open our HTML file in app/index.html, and let's go at the bottom, and here you'll find a script tag that loads js/index.js, and we want to change this into dist/bundle.js. Okay, so now that we set up Webpack and Babel, we can use any ES6 features in our front-end code without being afraid of compatibility issues with browsers, so that's awesome. Babel will just transform everything into old school ES6 5 JavaScript that all the browsers will understand. However, at the moment, things are still very inconvenient. Every time we change any JavaScript file, we need to manually ask Webpack to recompile our code. What would be great is a command that watch any file changes and run Webpack automatically when needed. Fortunately, Webpack already have this feature when you launch it with the watch command. So for our convenience, we're going to create a npm command in package.json. So let's open our package.json and let's find the script entry, and we're going to add a new command that we will call dev front. And basically what dev front will do is you will check in the node modules folder, and there is a binary subfolder where you have all the executable of all the package you've installed, and one of these executable is Webpack, and we're going to launch it with the watch command. So we are also going to add another task to watch the backend code. So first you need to install node daemon with this command. Notice that you need to install it globally. And then we go back in our package.json and we add another command that we will call dev back. And very simply, it's going to launch node daemon with server.js. Okay, so now we need to check that our setup actually works. So in a new terminal window, you go into the step 6 folder, and we're going to execute the command that we've just created, dev front. The dev front command doesn't work. What's the problem? Let's check out. Oh, okay, there is a space between the dash and the watch. Okay, let's remove the space. Should be like this, and now let's try again. npm run dev front. And it is working, amazing. Okay, so now in a new terminal window, let's go back into step 6 again, and this time let's make a dummy change into our JavaScript file to see if Webpack will reload it. And at the very bottom, I'm just going to add a dummy comment, and I'm gonna save this. And did Webpack change everything? Yes, it just did, because here we had like the first build of Webpack, and here we can see the second one. So it has worked. That's amazing. Congratulations, you've just automated an important part of your workflow. Plus bonus, now you are free to use the latest JavaScript features without fear. That's amazing. So what I want to explain you now is how we're going to load our smart contract artifact dynamically using truffle-solidity-loader. So what we've been doing so far. So far, every time we make a change to our smart contract, so which is todo.sol. So let's say I make any change to the smart contract. The next thing I need to do is to migrate this smart contract with the truffle migrate command. And then it's going to produce a new smart contract artifact at build contract todo. So this huge file. And we have to copy this JSON file and copy it into our JavaScript file. And that's a huge pain to have to do this every time. But fortunately for us, the good people of the Truffle framework came up with this really cool package called truffle-solidity-loader that basically automated the whole workflow I've just mentioned. Before we go further, a quick note. If you do a Google search for this package, truffle-solidity-loader, the first result you're going to find is actually a link to an old repo under the consensus organization, and this repo is not up to date anymore, so the documentation is outdated, so don't follow it. The repo where you want to go is the repo of Truffle, and inside the repo of Truffle it's actually a little bit hidden, so it's a little bit difficult to find this info and nobody's telling you. So there is a packages folder where you'll find all the sub-package of the Truffle framework, and one of them will be truffle-solidity-loader. If you scroll at the bottom, and so you go into this folder, and there will be a README, and this documentation is up to date, as well as a documentation on the npm package website. Truffle-solidity-loader integrates perfectly with the Webpack watch system. Every time you change the smart contract, Webpack will first detect the change, and after it will call truffle-solidity-loader and give it the content of the solidity file that they changed. Then truffle-solidity-loader will do three things. First, it will recompile the solidity smart contract. Second, it will rerun truffle migration to deploy the new smart contract to your Ethereum blockchain. And lastly, it will reload the compile artifact into our JavaScript file. All you need to do for this to work is to add an entry to our Webpack configuration after the first rule that we already put just before. And for this, I'm going to copy paste a snippet from the article of this tutorial on the website of ETHBlock. So I'm going to scroll down until I find the section load smart contract artifact dynamically, and then here I have my snippet. So I'm going to copy this snippet, and let's go back in my terminal, and then let's open the Webpack file, and then we find our first rule that is for processing JavaScript files. So you'll want to put a comma after this object, and let's paste what we okay, yeah. And now let's go to our JavaScript file where we're going to replace the copy paste of the JSON artifact by just a single line. It's going to be beautiful. And I'm going to use some vimfoo to delete everything from this point to the beginning of the file. Awesome. And now we need the import statement to actually get our artifact inside the JavaScript file. And we're going to use the ES6 import statement, import artifact from, we're going to the root of the project, and we're going to reference our solidity file. And notice how this time we do not actually import the JSON artifact, but we import directly the smart contract, and the truffle solidity loader is going to take care of everything. It's amazing. And now that we have access to ES6 features, we don't need to go through the pain of actually copying the minified version of our dependency. So I'm talking of Web3 and truffle contract. So if you remember in previous episodes, what we did is we imported the minified version of two dependencies. So they are into app vendor. And it's a little bit clunky to do like this. So we're going to delete this vendor directory. And we're going to leverage the fact that we actually install those two dependencies with npm. So in our package.json, you can see that we have Web3 here, and we have truffle contract. So we can go back to our JavaScript file, and we're going to import these two dependencies. So import Web3 from Web3, and import truffle contract from truffle contract. And Webpack will take care of actually loading the source code in our final bundle that will be loaded in the front end. Next, we want to add some const keyword. So it's basically it will make Webpack happy. Otherwise, Webpack will not be happy to see variables that are not declared with any specifier. Abstraction also is going to be const. Network is going to be const. And address. All right. And we also need to remove the script tags that were actually loading the minify version of Web3 and truffle contract in our HTML file. So let's go there. Let's go to the bottom, and here you will see these two lines: web3.min.js, truffle contract.min.js, not needed anymore. Bye bye. Now ES6 has replaced you. Currently, our frontend is configured to use the Ganache CLI version that is included in Truffle, and that runs by default at port 9545. But in this tutorial, I want to make you use a different Ganache CLI. So I could ask you very simply to just modify this number here, but that's not very flexible. Potentially, when you develop a Dapp, you will probably have to change very often the configuration of your Ethereum development blockchain. So we need something more flexible than just updating variables every time. So for this, we're going to use environment variable, and we're going to configure the URL of our Ethereum development node according to the environment variable. So it will make things much easier in the future when you develop your own Dapp. By the way, this is not something I found in another tutorial. This is 100% a custom solution, and it has worked really well for me. So I hope you will like it too. Let's see how it works. So open your package.json file, and we're going to add an environment variable to the dev front command. And we're going to call it development. Now we need to modify our Webpack configuration in order to pass this environment variable to our frontend when Webpack packages into a bundle. So I'm going to go back to the post of this tutorial on eattheblocks.com, and I'm going to scroll down to find this snippet. And the section you want to find is called Connect to different Ethereum clients depending on environments. And then you will find the snippet here. Copy this, and I'm going to open the Webpack config, and just below the first require at the very top, I'm going to paste the snippet. And then at the very bottom of the module export object, I'm going to add a new entry that's going to be called plugins, and plugins is an array, and I'm going to put the variable that I've just defined before, which is called env variables. Let's close this array. In the rule of truffle-solidity-loader, we also need to make a change. So there is a network key that has a static value of development. So we need to change this by the value of the environment variable env. So for this, we're going to type process env dot env with uppercase, and we're going to remove that. And now our configuration is complete. So now the content of our env variable is actually available to our frontend. So now in our frontend code, we need to read the value of this environment variable and build the URL of the Ethereum node that we want to connect to. So we could put this in the index.js file, but it started to become a little bit too chunky, so we're going to create another file that we'll call config.js. So create a new file in app.js and call this config, and then we're going to copy paste a snippet from the article on the website. So scroll down a little bit, and here you will find this snippet that say import truffle from truffle, and then you have a function that's called get Ethereum URL. So you copy all of this, you go back to the config file, and you paste everything. So what's happening here? So first we import the configuration of Truffle. So remember, Truffle, the framework, has a configuration file that is called truffle.js, and that is at the root of our project. So if you want to have a look at it, that's what we have inside. So here you define the network that you want to connect to with different parameters such as the host, the port, the gas limit. Then we define a function that's basically is going to build the connection URL based on the environment variable. So it's going to look into this truffle configuration, and under the networks key, basically it's going to pass the environment variable, and it's going to get the network configuration like this, and after we just have to extract the host and the port. So the trick here is that you have to match your environment variable with the entry of your configuration in the networks object here. So for example, here my current network is called development, and my environment variable is called development. So if you create another environment variable, for example production, then you need also to create a configuration called production into truffle.js. And then finally here we create a config object with an Ethereum URL entry that's going to have the correct URL that Web3 is going to use in our main JavaScript file. Okay, we still have one thing to do, is we need to make a slight change to our main JavaScript file to use this config.js file that we just created. So we're going to import this file. So import config from config.js, and then we're going to replace here this static string by this dynamic configuration, and here what we want is the Ethereum URL entry. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel. You can also subscribe to my newsletter on the website of Eat the Blogs, where I send a weekly newsletter of the 10 best link for Ethereum Dapp developer, and I also make a video out of it every week. And you can also like this video and share it with your friend, and I hope to see you in the next videos. Bye guys, and happy learning.